So our lesson today is going to be about interpreting word problems and writing the inequalities from these word problems. The first thing that we need to do before we get into actually looking at an example is we need to come up with a list, just like our notes from last class, of the ways that we would write down algebraic terms using words. So I'm going to go through each of our symbols. We're going to start with greater than, and then greater than or equal to, less than, and less than or equal to. So for each of these symbols, there's more than one way that you're going to see them showing up in word problems. So if we're starting with greater than, obviously that's one way that it might show up. In addition to that, we'll also have more than, larger than, or above. Those are all different ways that we can write down our description of our greater than symbol. So they all have the same meaning, and if you were to see those showing up in a word problem, that's your automatic hint that you're going to be using the greater than symbol in your inequality. Our next one is greater than or equal to, and it may show up in that phrasing in a question, but there's actually much more likely ways to see it. The first one would be minimum. After that, at least, is not less than, and is not smaller than. So we're actually going to see some negatives showing up in this case. Moving on to less than, obviously our first option is less than. Can also be smaller than, or we can also say below, because if you're describing something as being below, then it's not included as part of your answer. And our last option is less than or equal to. So again, sort of like greater than or equal to, we're not going to see people in questions saying greater than or equal to, because that's not really how we would describe things in real life. So what we'll see is maximum, at most, not more than, is not greater than. So those are our four options for this one. So now we've got our four different inequality symbols and some really common phrases that you would see in a word problem to describe those symbols. Now there's possibility that there are other ways to describe, and as we're moving on, you're going to want to leave some space underneath of this chart in your notes so that you'll be able to add on other descriptions that we encounter as we go through more examples. Now we're going to try a word problem just to get used to seeing what an inequality looks like and getting used to our process that we had from last assignment online, where we're going through our steps, creating an idea of how we're going to solve it, actually writing down some equations that are going to help us solve this problem, and then verifying that our answer makes sense. So here we've got Sam earned $400 in June and $550 in July. How much more does he need to earn in August for his average salary of these 3 months to be at least $600? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and underline some things that are really important. So before I even start to write down my answer, I actually want to read the problem again, underline what's important, and then I'll actually start to write things down. So one of the questions that you saw from last class was, what exactly are we looking to find? So what's the point of this question? The point of this question is, how much does he need to earn in August? Our conditions in this question are that his average salary for these 3 months, so for June, July, and August, needs to be at least $600. So we're seeing something here that we just saw in our chart. At least. So when we see that term at least, we know that we're going to be working with our greater than or equal to symbol. We should expect that to show up whenever we write down information about this question. Another really important piece of information here is this, his average. So we're looking at average salary. That's important because it's going to help us define an inequality that's going to let us solve this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define X as his salary for August. And that's the variable that I'm looking to find because I want to know how much he needs to earn in August. The next thing that I'm going to apply is the fact that we're looking at an average salary. So we want our average salary to be at least $600. I'm going to write down what an average would look like. So if I actually had June, July, and August, what would it look like if I did an average? Well, I would have my salary for June, my salary for July, and my salary for August. And if I wanted to do the average of them, I would divide the entire thing by 3. So that's part of my inequality. Now I'm saying that it has to be at least $600. So I'm going to look at my chart and I'm going to say, well, at least means it has to be greater than, or it can also be equal to. Greater than or equal to $600. So I've got this inequality set up here, and I should be able to solve to find what is a reasonable range of values for his salary for August. So the first thing I'm going to do, I want to remove that denominator. So I'm going to do the opposite of division, which is multiplication. And it's going to leave my 400 plus 550 plus x. After that, I'm just going to combine my values on the left here so that I end up with 950 plus x greater than or equal to 1800. From there, I just need to subtract that 950 from both sides. So in the end, my value for x needs to be greater than or equal to $850. A good habit here is to write this final answer as a sentence. So how would I write this as a sentence? X represented a salary for August, so it should be in dollars. And if I were to write this down, I would say this. Sam must earn at least $850 in August. So you can see here that you can work backwards as well. Whenever I end up with an answer, I want to translate back into a sentence because that's how it started. So Sam has to earn at least $850 in August. If I wanted to continue that, I would say in order for his average salary for June, July, and August to be at least $600.